what's helped you with thinking in English?
Because everyone's laughing.
We have a word for that in English, doppelgangers.
If you can't pronounce the Arabic letters, if you can speak Arabic, I think you can learn any other language.
Orthodontist. Welcome to the You Can Too English podcast, where I interview people about how they went from zero English to doing amazing things in English. And we talk about how you can do the same, how you can truly learn English. We'll talk about tips, strategies, and I'll explain difficult words that we use in this conversation. This real English conversation will be great listening practice for you too. So let's improve your future by improving your English.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's great to have all of you guys with us today. Great to have Dr. محمد ناجي. Dr. Muhammad is doing an amazing job with his English, has done really cool things, speaking in front of, it looked like hundreds of people in English, which is scary for even native English speakers to do. So, so we're going to interview him about his journey with learning English. So, Dr. Muhammad, could you introduce yourself first and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Great. So first of all, I'm very happy, Josh, to be here with you today. Very interesting page you got. For those who don't know, my name is Dr. Muhammad Naji. I am the Executive Director of Liberty Medical Group, which is a renowned dental practice here in our region. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I specialize in orthodontics and I do some cosmetic dentistry as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I do.
Okay, sweet. That's awesome. So he knows everything about teeth. And so he's an orthodontist, a difficult word for everyone. If you guys want to practice saying it out loud, orthodontist, and it's connected. Also, you are a dentist, so you know everything about all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to hear Muhammad, or Dr. Muhammad, what are some ways that you are using English in your everyday life to have a bigger impact? How is English helping you in your daily life now?
I mean, to be honest, it's a must nowadays. It's for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not just my practice
Yeah.
or my career. Everybody needs the English language. I think it's the most spoken language now around the world. Is it Spanish or English? English, yeah.
Yeah, English is, not as a native language, but as a second language and language used. Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, so you just you need the English language to reach out to everyone, pretty much. So wherever you are around the world, the first language you tend to use in public is English, hoping that someone will understand.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we need it at work, we need it in our daily life. Dubai is a very cosmopolitan city, so people come from all around the world, and the common language for them is English. So to communicate with them, you need to have that.
Yeah, that is very true. And you used a very good word there, cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
A difficult one, cosmopolitan. People from all around the world. Big city with people from all around the world, cosmopolitan. So, yeah, that's very true. I went to Dubai with my family back in, was it 2019 maybe? And I was kind of thinking like, oh, cool, this will be an opportunity to practice Arabic there. And I found I think one person I could speak Arabic with. Nobody else. It was just some people in the elevator. Nobody else spoke Arabic with me. So yeah, definitely true there. So also,
English is the way to go here.
Yeah, very, very true. So how old were you? You're doing an amazing job with speaking English now. How old were you when you first started learning English?
I mean, we learned it at school, so ever since kindergarten, it's usually the second language you learn in most schools here in Dubai, if not all of them actually. But I must say that's not where you pick it up, as I'm sure you would know. It's your daily life, the TV, all the shows you watch, all that. That's where you pick up the proper, vocabs and the accent as well.
Yeah, so you're learning in school, and that's very true. Sometimes in school you don't. I learned French and Spanish in school, but we didn't care about it at all, so we didn't learn a whole lot. Same thing there.
I learned French for 13 years in school.
Okay.
But it was a class. You learn the basics and what you need to know for the books. But then I couldn't keep it right after graduation, because you don't practice it much. So I understand very well. I speak a bit, but it's not like English.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the only person I knew who spoke French was my French teacher. So there were no opportunities to actually speak with other people. So yeah, motivation is a huge part of that. What kind of drove your motivation? Did you just at that young age know that you really needed English later on in your life, or how did you come to want to learn English on a deeper level?
I think I picked it up the best during my teen
Mm.
years because that's when you're cool, and
Yeah.
that's where you listen to all, the hip hop, R&B, watch
Yep.
all those movies. So to
Yeah.
keep up, and usually like most trends that come up for the past, I don't know, couple of decades is in English.
Yeah.
So just to keep up with that, you need to, learn the language properly. But it's not like I thought that I want to learn this language. I want to perfect this language. It just came along.
Yeah. You wanted to do the cool things. You wanted to be a part of that, and then learning just came along with that. Yeah.
Pretty much.
That is
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, which is great when we're not even focused on learning. It just passively happens like that. So,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah. So when do you feel like for you, I know you said you learned in school. Do you feel like that was really helpful for you, or was it mainly in, like you said, as a teenager that you started really learning? Or tell me a little bit more about your journey of how you went from not speaking English well to where you are now.
Yeah, I think I mean, school did not teach me the fluent English that I carry
Yeah.
right now. School taught me more of, the grammar, the literature,
Mm-hmm.
all those things that I really appreciate now. And I'm kind of
Yeah.
picky about it. Like sometimes, when people text you and they're like there, and it's like they were
The wrong one.
apostrophe YER, the IER, the difference
Yeah.
between there and there and there.
Yep. Which even
So
native English
all
speakers, Americans make mistakes with that all the time. So it's funny to see
no,
that.
no, I mean I mean that irritates me for some reason. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Uh-huh.
Like even
Yep.
people that I'm not really close to, I'm just like correcting them.
Yep.
So
That's great.
you get that from school. You don't learn that on the street.
Yeah.
So such things, your grammar as well, all those things you learn in school, and you cannot learn them afterwards. As you said, even
Mm-hmm.
English speakers, even Americans,
Yeah.
sometimes if they don't get that during school, they just don't have it later on. They can speak
Yep.
it, but they cannot write it properly. So
Mm-hmm.
that I got from school, but the fluent English, your accent, which I do not hear, but everyone does, that you get
Yeah.
from the culture and the community around you.
Yeah. No, that is very true. Just being around it, actually absorbing it. Because, yeah, you can learn grammar rules all day. I've met some people who they know all the grammar rules, but they
Yeah,
can't speak. They can't speak
yeah,
well. And so we just need
yeah.
to speak to actually master it. Because
It's
for
it's like
most, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
go on. It's like most people who actually study language in
Yeah.
universities. So I've met a lot of people who studied Spanish or English literature or all that.
Yeah.
But if they live in a country where they do not use the language, they pretty much know it on the books. But
Yep.
if you speak to them, it's not really the best
Yeah.
language that they carry on.
Exactly. Yeah. They can answer questions on a test, right? But not able to
Exactly.
actually use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is a very true thing. Because for most native English speakers, like most Americans, most British people, if you ask somebody, give me a sentence in the past continuous, they'll be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. They don't know what the rules are. They don't know those. But the cool thing with how God created our brains is that we naturally pick it up. Our brains just absorb the language
Exactly.
without ever learning the rules, which is
Exactly.
pretty amazing. So, yeah, so on your journey of learning English, what do you feel like were some of the most helpful strategies, tools, resources, tips, anything like that that really helped you? Because a lot of other people go through the same thing where they learn in school and stuff, but they don't end up getting to a high level of English. What do you feel like made the difference for you?
Yeah, I think it's the social life. That's factor
Yeah.
number one.
Hmm.
The more you are surrounded by speakers of that language that you want to learn, the more you get to, excel at it.
Yeah.
Second would be any kind of entertainment, all the movies, TV shows, they really help, especially if you tend to watch them for a while without translation.
Yeah.
Yes, you might not understand, but I realized that you do grab the vocab and the words,
Hmm.
the accent itself in a much better manner.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is great to get it from real contexts like that.
I was
When
I
you
was
were,
watching an interview. I was watching an interview the other day for K-pop, the boy band
okay.
from
Yeah.
Japan,
Uh-huh.
and they took over the world. And then I think they were on Ellen or something.
Okay.
And one of them actually spoke proper English out of all of
Okay.
them. And they asked him, "How did you do that?" He's like, "I watched Friends." He's
Yeah.
like, "I
Yep.
finished
Uh-huh.
Friends."
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, here's an example.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, that's what I feel like is the go-to one that a lot of people go to
Yeah,
is Friends.
yeah,
Great,
yeah,
just
yeah.
natural conversation in there. What were some of the TV shows or movies that you liked the most that helped you? And also, everybody, we're reading your comments as well. We're going to have some questions at some point. We'd love to hear if you guys have any questions for Dr. Muhammad as
Yes.
well. So send those in, and I'll write those down so I can ask him as well. I see somebody said BTS. They're fans as well of the
Oh
K-pop.
yeah,
So
BTS. Yes, that's
yep,
the band.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Uh,
so.
yeah. Sorry, what was your question?
Yes. So for you, what were some of like your favorite movies and TV shows that you
Oh,
felt like really helped you with learning?
um, I would say, I mean, obviously, just like everyone has Friends. Like
Friends. Yep.
Friends is always in the
Yeah.
background. Like even if you're
Yep.
not watching, it's at home somewhere
Everybody
playing.
does. I know. Yep.
So
Yeah.
Friends would be one. Um, Not really the accent that I pulled off, but Peaky Blinders, man. Peaky
Okay.
Blinders
Yeah.
is, you know,
Yeah.
the English, the heavy Birmingham accent.
Yep. Very strong
Uh,
accent. Yep.
yeah, I lived in London for a little while, but I
Okay.
couldn't, like, I just, yeah, I couldn't
Pick up
hold
the
on to
accent.
that properly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so Peaky Blinders, Friends, actually, now that you asked me, I realized that I never really watched like a proper American, or like none of my favorites is actually a proper American movie or show. Like I like
Okay.
Vikings, which is barely close to English.
Yeah.
Um, and my favorite movie of all time is Braveheart, which is
Braveheart.
mainly Irish and
That is a
Scottish.
great one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and The Gladiator. So those are like the main ones. Gladiator is
Yeah.
probably the closest to the American
Uh-huh.
scene.
Yeah. So you like the fighting movies where at the end you're just like, here we go. Like I can take over the world here, right?
Pretty much,
It just
pretty much.
encourages you.
So my
Yeah,
motive, my
those are great
motive.
ones. Yep, those are great ones. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's fun the variety of shows that are out there. My grandmother, she was actually British, and
yeah.
so she spoke with a very strong British accent until the day she went to be with the Lord. And I would always try to speak with her back in a British accent, which was always really fun to do that. So I would call her Queen Veronica, and
Yeah.
she would try speaking back. She'd be like Prince Joshua. So it
Yeah,
was always a lot of fun. But yeah, with kind of your journey of learning English, what would you say are some idioms or words or anything like that that you really like, ones that you enjoy saying in English?
Uh, well, I not a specific word.
Anything that you
I
just
would say
like
something
enjoy using, you like
something that I often get is sophisticated. Because
sophisticated. Okay.
it's just a
Yeah.
sophisticated word itself, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
it sounds like what it
Sophisticated.
means.
Yep. That is a very good point.
Yeah,
Sophisticated is a very sophisticated word.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. For those of you guys watching, sophisticated, difficult word. It's SOPH instead of F, and it's like done in this higher way, a way that's kind of like not this low way, but a more mature, more proper way. It's a very sophisticated way of doing things. So it's a sophisticated word, which is great.
By the way,
So,
a side note, I really am really impressed with what you're doing, you know, like how you break things down. Because the other day I was just like, you know, before our interview when we spoke, I was like,
yeah.
let me get
Uh-huh.
deeper into this. And it's really impressive.
Mm,
Like I never thought of how breaking things, like the breaking words down can
mm,
actually facilitate the learning process.
yeah.
Especially in English, I mean, a lot of words have letters that you don't really
Yep.
pronounce, or the
Yeah.
same word can be pronounced in different ways and mean different
Hmm.
things. So yeah, that's very impressive.
Yeah. Thank you. Praise God. Yeah, I think
Uh,
that's super helpful for me with learning Arabic. Sometimes somebody says a word, it's so fast. I'm like, I can't repeat that. But when you break it down piece by piece, it makes it much easier to be
um,
able to repeat. So
I'm, I'm gonna get to that. Like when the questions section starts, I
yeah.
really want to ask you about that. Like, where does that come from? Because your
Okay.
Arabic
Yeah.
is really impressive. Yeah. So tell me when it's time to
Yeah. Yeah.
discuss
We'd
that.
love to get to that. Yeah. Praise God. Still
Yeah,
learning, but praise God for where I've gotten to so
yeah,
far.
yeah, yeah.
Still trying to get to your level of English though with my Arabic. So, um,
You're good. You're good.
thank you. So, but yeah, one thing as well is that I know with learning English or learning any language, one of the biggest obstacles, an obstacle is something that like stops you from going somewhere. So obstacles, not explaining for you, Mohammed, explaining for
Yeah,
everybody in the comments,
yeah,
you know it. But one of the biggest obstacles is people's fear of making mistakes. A lot of students that I have say that they are afraid of making mistakes, and it takes them away from ever getting more fluent. It's the idea of perfectionism. Perfectionism, when we want to be perfect in everything, makes it so that we just don't even try sometimes because we know that we will make mistakes. But if we don't make mistakes, we'll never learn English any better. So I'd love to hear from you an example of a time that you made a big mistake in English, or an embarrassing, funny mistake, anything like that in English, that in the moment maybe it was kind of hard, but now you can look back at and you can laugh at.
Look, I cannot say what exactly it was, but I was on stage in front of almost 500 people in Miami.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I said an expression. I was trying to say just a normal sentence.
Yeah.
And a part of that sentence was an expression which was very inappropriate.
Okay.
I mean, it did not have any bad words,
Okay.
but it's used in a way that's
In a negative way.
really the
Yep.
best thing. So,
Yeah.
that was and my reaction was horrible because like right over there after the sentence came out, I kind of like I figured it out, and
Yeah.
I just paused there and I'm like, yeah, well. Let everyone, because everyone was laughing, and I was like, okay, let's just carry on.
Yep. Let's pretend that never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was great. So a great example like that, right? Where that's just part of what happens, right? The more we do it, even as native English speakers, we make mistakes like that sometimes as well, right? And you just have to laugh at yourself. So
Exactly. So
what
it's
helped?
totally normal, yeah.
Exactly. What helped you with that situation as well, to not like the rest of the year just be going back over that, thinking again like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I did that. What helped you to want to go up on stage again instead of just giving up?
I laughed it off. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just me. I mean, whenever I do a mistake, I just tend to emphasize on that. I just make it more obvious because I mean, it's done. So might as well just enjoy the moment as it is.
Yeah.
So
that is very true.
I mean, it's nothing that really affected me. It's just like a funny moment, funny story that we should, maybe after the live, I would tell you what it is.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a funny story that we share sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And those create those good memories, right? Those great stories you can tell later on, that we wouldn't have if we didn't make those mistakes. And because of that, again, because of not letting that stop you, now you're able to go up again on stage again and again and do amazing things that you never would have been able to do if you had been afraid of that.
Honestly, I think making mistakes is the big. I mean, it doesn't have to be the funny ones, but making actual mistakes while speaking of any language is something that is very normal. And to be honest, I find those who laugh about it or criticize it are just foolish because. At least this person, first of all, is trying. Second of all, they speak another language. Most of those who laugh don't. They have a single language.
Exactly.
So there's nothing to be ashamed of for whoever's watching. If you always feel like you're at risk of making a mistake while speaking, and let it be. It's fine.
Yeah, that is very, very true. Yeah, and something too is, like you said, those who do care about it, their opinions don't really matter because they probably only speak one language. But for most native English speakers, they don't really care about if you're making mistakes or not. They care about understanding you, right? That's the goal, is we want to understand you. We're used to people making mistakes because like America, the US, Britain, we're very international countries, right? There are people from all around the world. So it's very normal. True. And so that is a huge thing, is just to let go, release the idea of not making mistakes, because if we are afraid of that, we'll never learn.
That's if you look into it, that's where most of the the casual statements or casual words or the pop culture in general. If you look into proper, for example, rap songs or even in shows and stuff, there are a lot of things that are not proper English as per the literature, but they just become famous and it becomes part of the language. So it's as long as you said, as long as people understand what you're trying to say, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Language is constantly changing. For every language, they change. Every like 10 years, you get a good amount of differences in the language. Like even if I just listen to American English from 50 years ago, it's kind of funny hearing some parts of it because the accent sounds a little bit different. Some of the words they use, we just don't speak that way. And so we have to be okay with that. And some of that comes through the informal stuff, right? The slang that comes up. We just are continually creating new things. So, Cool. Yeah. I see some people in the comments just asking about best ways to learn English. And I know we've talked a little bit about that. What would you say for some of them asking about how to learn English? What would be your advice from them or for them based on your experience?
Look, for whoever has the luxury of being surrounded by, English speakers, that would definitely be number one. So find yourself a group of friends that speak only English, hang out with them. Even if at first you might make mistakes or even be silent around them. Some people just sit and listen. Bit by bit, you'll figure that, you're much better than what you were before that. So I would say that. And if you don't have that, try to get on chat groups. There's plenty of applications where people get together and, chat and speak. So that helps a lot. Try to, listen, communicate with those people. And your social media following. So whoever you follow, the content that's constantly appearing on your screen is always helpful. I think there's plenty of accounts that have, for example, quotes or, phrases that are in Arabic and English or in any other language in English. So that's, having a dictionary in your daily life, because whenever you have a sentence that's translated, whatever it is, you get to learn that, oh, okay, so this word means this without having to actually put effort into searching for it. So that's one way, and following awesome people like yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, that's on its own is cool.
Yeah, no, that is a really good point. That we spend a lot of people spend 6 to 10 hours on social media every day, right? And so if we can just switch that over to filling it with English, with things that we want to learn, we can actually grow instead of walking away where we just got some good laughs, which can be important. We get some great dental advice as well, right? But to also be able to learn some things like English just by switching things to English is really helpful. I try to do that sometimes, just following Arabic pages so that I know I'm going to go to open up Instagram. If I can open it up and I can see Arabic, that's going to help me learn without even focusing on it. So that is a really good point. Yeah. What would you say is, I guess I'd love two different parts of this. One, what's one misconception that you think people have about learning English? And also, what's one misconception people have about you as Dr. Muhammad Naji, anything that comes up to you, you can take that wherever you want to. Open question.
Okay, so a misconception about English is, okay, I would answer both questions in one. So,
okay, cool.
I would say a lot of people, maybe in this part of the world, think that sometimes you're speaking English because you're showing off or you're bragging about it. Like I always get these comments because I post a lot of educational videos that are in Arabic and English sometimes. And because I have an English audience, some of my patients are English speakers, so I need to deliver a message to them as well. And I get a lot of comments going like, why are you speaking English if you're in Arab? You should be proud of your language. You should speak your language. Let me tell you what, I am super proud to be an Arab. I am very proud of our language because it is one of the most difficult languages on earth. But we also need to cater to a bigger audience. We need to provide, content that, people would understand on a bigger scale. So whether it's English or not, I think having an extra language and actually using it is something you should always be proud of. And it's not just about showing your skills or showing people that you can speak that language.
So, that's a really good point.
That's two in one. So that's the answer for the first one. And the misconception that some people think I speak it because I just want to show people that I speak a second language. No, it's actually a form or a way of delivering information to a bigger audience. And if I speak better French or Spanish, I would also make videos in English.
You'd use that as well.
Spanish, so.
That is a great point. Yeah, because I think that is the natural tendency. Because unfortunately, some people do use it to show off, right? I've seen some people, they just try to throw in words where it's like, the word in Arabic, you're just trying to show off. But there's also a lot of real good reasons to use it, right? To actually, you're trying to reach an entire audience. People who, if you just spoke in Arabic, they wouldn't be able to understand. They wouldn't be able to connect. So that is a really good point, that it's a tool. Right. The more languages we have, the more tools we have. And it's not a bad thing to use those tools.
Indeed.
So,
for sure.
Yeah, and you used a few good words in that. You said showing off. To show off is where you try to, like, again, explaining for everybody in the comments, everybody watching, to show off is to try to, like, show everybody, look at how good I am. Or he said the word brag as well, is the same idea. Look at how good I am. I'm better than you because I do this, which is not what you're doing when you're speaking in English. So yeah, kind of going back to where we were talking about speaking with people, having just like friends and things like that who we can speak with in English. What would you recommend from your experience of how to meet people in whatever country or city people are in, if they're not in a native English speaking country, for example, in the UAE or something, where there are a lot of opportunities for that, but a lot of people can still, they tend to go towards just being with their family and the people that they grew up with. What would be your recommendations for how people in the UAE or somewhere else can get out and speak in English with people, actually build relationships in English?
Socialize, get out of your circle, out of your comfort zone. The more you meet people of different cultures, it's not just English, you learn a lot of things. You learn the culture itself of those people. So in Dubai, that's not an issue because everyone speaks English. Wherever you go, you have to use the language. And that's the case, I think, in most countries. But if you live in countries that, you know, don't have English speakers, a lot of countries, for example, would have French as a second language. So I think the internet is a great place. It's you know, the whole world on a device. So you would have access to a lot of people. And if you search on that, I'm sure there's websites and applications all around the world in any country where you can find a group of people that speak that language, whether it's English or not. So find those people, hang out with them, speak. And I think this is great because everyone is there for the same purpose. So you won't feel intimidated by, you know, their speech or their excellence at the language. So I think those groups are amazing. It's a very comfortable place to be and practice without feeling very paranoid about what you're going to say.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. One example of that I think is really helpful is meetup.com. I think it's meetup or meetups.com, but it's just like what you mentioned, where it focuses on people who want to get together for any type of group. It could be a walking group, anything like that. And people go to that for the purpose of meeting friends, making friends. And so when they get to do that, you go there and the focus is walking or playing some game or exercising. And then you just naturally get to speak with people in English. It's a great way to learn. So yeah, that is a very good point. We also want to hear some questions from you guys. So if you guys want to put some questions in the chat, I see one here somebody sent in is asking about IELTS, about what helped them or kind of how they can learn and prepare for IELTS. First question, have you had to take IELTS before? If so, what helped you with training for that and preparing for that? Because it's like, it is kind of, I'd say 75% focused on just your language skills, but then 20% somewhere around there is just about the strategies for the test. So what helped you with both parts of that, if you've taken it?
I have actually, but that was, I don't know,
a while ago,
16 years ago. Not much. I mean, to be honest, I just did it my way. I just went there and I was like, you know, let's see what happens. And my plan was to repeat it if things go wrong. And thankfully, I got the score that I want. So I'm very sorry. Maybe I did not give you the best answer.
That's okay. No, you got it. So
I'm not really an expert in such academic things, but it was. I think SATs have an English section, right?
Yeah, the SAT does. It's like slightly different, but it is like a lot of reading.
SATs was horrible.
Yeah, like, so you did have to take the SAT.
I did my SATs, and I don't think anyone can actually get a good score on that. Like, no matter who you are, even William Shakespeare wouldn't actually get.
It is pretty challenging.
Because the questions were like, the blank went to the school. Girl, the choices are girl, boy, student. Anyone could have.
Which one could it be? Yep.
So here's like a bit of a motivation. If any of you did not do well on your SATs, you're okay. I don't think I would do well, so it's
you don't need a
fine.
perfect score on it. Yeah. Nobody
Yeah,
nobody comes in when you're working on their teeth. Nobody comes in and says, "Hey, what was your SAT score?" Right?
score,
They care about
exactly,
can you do the
exactly.
job. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for anyone wondering, the SAT is a test that every in the US there are two tests, the SAT and the ACT.
SCT 1 and 2, yeah.
Yep, you have to take one of those tests
Yeah.
to go into college is like the big thing, and there's like a math section and an English section.
Yeah.
Even for native English speakers, it's reading, some vocabulary and things like that, and it's quite difficult pretty often. So yeah, somebody else was asking about what's helped you with thinking in English. I guess right now, do you primarily think in English, primarily think in Arabic, and what helps you when you do want to think in English?
It depends on what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So anything that's professional, work related, my brain functions in pure English, and that's because of my education. Like I learned everything in English. So a lot of terms I don't even know in Arabic, but that's what we served. And so that's anything professional, anything business related is usually in English. Anything on a personal level would be more in Arabic, because it also depends a lot on the scenario that you're in, like the whatever that you're thinking about. If you were with Arabs and the issue revolves around an Arabic speaker, or the conversation was in Arabic, so by default your brain functions in Arabic. So yeah, it really depends.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, it's cool that you've gotten to that level where you can just naturally switch into thinking in English or thinking in Arabic depending on the situation. It's pretty impressive.
You don't control it. Yeah, like I don't think that okay, now I'm gonna speak in English, or now I'm gonna think in English or Arabic. It's just the way it is. And by the way, a lot of people who live in countries like the UAE even speak in both languages.
Yeah, so you're constantly going back and forth between them.
It just happens by default, even if the person in front of you only speaks English or only speaks Arabic. Well, you tend to use both languages in one sentence. Happens very often.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Just the language blending there that goes on. But yeah, for those of you
and a lot of Arabs tend to switch English words to Arabic. Okay, so I don't know how to say this.
Arabic pronunciation.
So here's something in slang or something in that we used often. For example, people who got COVID, okay, are people that have the corona, the coronavirus. So the Arabic term would say "أنت مكورن," which means like you have corona. Corona is an English word. So that became like a term, like mkoran, which means he has corona. So that's one example. Or for example, someone who is overreacting or over expressive or something, you say like he's acting over, or
هو كتير over, right?
كتير over, or they would say over, over.
Okay,
those are such examples where they would use the English words in Arabic.
Yeah, and it's always funny too when those are used with like slightly different meanings as well, where you take the English verb and then it switches a little bit. Like one I was really surprised by when I was learning Arabic was toast. That in English, toast is after you put it in the toaster. If it's just the normal bread, it's not toasted.
Bread.
Once you put it in, it's just bread, right? But once you put it in, it becomes toast. But then people would be telling me like, hey, get the toast here and things like that. And it took me a second to realize that the real word toast was just being used in a different way in Arabic, which is funny. So it's cool how that happens with all of that. So for everyone, those of you who were somebody said you look like a player on Liverpool. So congrats on that.
I don't know. I always get that. I don't know if she meant De Gea, who is the goalkeeper. Is he in Liverpool? Or Manchester? I don't know. I don't watch football or soccer. But I once had someone stop me at the gym, and like the guy was staring at me for a while, and then when he heard me speaking Arabic on the phone, he was like, "Okay, that's." I was like, "What's wrong?" I was just confirming it's not you.
Yeah, it's great. We have a word for that in English, doppelgangers. For all of you listening, doppelganger is somebody that you look like. You look similar to them. So I always find it fun just when people comment and they're like, you look like this person, you look like that person. It's fun to just see it where you're like, I don't see it at all, but they see it, and it's funny to see those things. So, but yeah, going back to what we were talking about, where somebody asked about how to think in English. Like you said, when you get to just a really high level, it just naturally happens. For those of you who are struggling with that, where you're like, I want to think in English, how do I do that? What I would encourage you guys to do is to just, you kind of have to force yourself. Just look around your room and just try to force yourself to describe the room in your head in English, just like you would do out loud, but just try switching it to English of like, okay, the wall is white. There is a light here. Very simple sentences. Just try forcing yourself to switch that over to train that muscle. Because for some people that happens naturally. For other people, it is pretty difficult to do that. And then as you're going through the day, really try to push yourself. When we think in our languages all the time, just try to push yourself to say, okay, let me just have a conversation in my head in English. If it helps you at first, you can move your lips. Okay, so like move your lips while you're doing it. And then eventually try to just stop that so it can be just in your head. And those are great steps to get to the point where it just happens more naturally. So that can help out a lot, because the more we think in English, it's basically free speaking practice. You're speaking with yourself in English because we're going to be speaking anyway. So that can be something that can help out a lot. So cool. So I did see somebody said the how did you learn Arabic? I know you mentioned that before.
Yes, tell me about it. Where did that come from? Because look, someone learning English is something, and someone learning Arabic, that's a whole different story over there. So it's very difficult. And do you write or do you only speak?
Yeah, I can type. My handwriting is bad in every language, but I can write slowly in Arabic, and then I type
because
more
learning
in
how to write in Arabic is also very different and very tough, because you need to know, like, the fatha, the dhamma, the shadda,
Yep.
the sukun,
Yeah, if you're doing
all
like
those.
fusha. Yeah.
Yeah, Fusha, exactly. And that's also another impressive thing, is that you don't speak only Fusha, because most non-Arab speakers, when they learn Arabic, they only speak Fusha. Like, it's like they just came out of a news anchor or something. So, but you're speaking like, the day-to-day regular Arabic. So tell me about it.
Yeah, no, just on that point of the Fusha, I always I have Google Maps on my phone in Arabic, and so I always love hearing it say it, where I'll try to repeat it and be like, بعد 40 ميل على اتجاه نحو يمين, and just try to sound very, very formal like that. So is always fun. But yeah, so I'll switch a little, just a little Arabic. أنا كنت مدرس اللغة الإنجليزية في السعودية لمدة 3 سنوات. وفي هذا الوقت أنا درست اللغة العربية في وقت فراغي. فمو 100% لسه أتعلم، بس أيوة لمدة 3 سنوات كنت أدرس. لما رجعت من الشغل كنت أحاول أن أتعلم شوية عربي، وكمان رحت إلى الأردن لمدة 3 شهور وتعلمت في معهد هناك. So during that time when I was in Saudi, I started off with first learning the Fusha, because I was like, this is the language that can be used everywhere. But then when I would go, I would try talking with people in the Fusha, and they could understand me, but I couldn't understand them. They would respond to me in Saudi Arabic, and so I didn't understand anything they were saying.
Bit of that, by the way. You have a bit of the Saudi letters, let's say, because الجا, like the qaf. So some people say qala, they would say gal, So I figured that you do that,
Yep. Yeah, that was kind of my goal, was after that, when I realized, man, I can't understand them. I want to be able to speak the language of the people, like how people's heart language, we say in English, your heart language, the language people actually feel comfortable. And nobody sits at home and just thinks in Fusha unless they really, really push themselves to do that. Wanted to know the real people, the real language that people have. So with that, I found a few resources online. A lot of it was just self-learning. I started off with the Fusha, had a teacher, and so I had some lessons and classes there. And then I found some different resources online where I was just going through that. And eventually I kind of, because of being an English teacher, I know how language learning works. I was like, I just don't know Arabic. I can't teach myself because I don't have that. And so that's when I would just find some person, like an Uber driver or a friend, and say, hey, can you come over and we watch this show together? And you're just available there where I can ask you questions about it and kind of teach myself through you in a way. And so I did some of that, which was pretty fun, but I'm still learning. So it's been a journey.
Where do you live in the States?
So I live in Florida right now. I'm from New Jersey, but now in Florida. So you said you're in Miami, so we're close by there in Gainesville.
If you go back to New Jersey, that's where a lot of Arabs live. So
yeah,
you would get the proper Arabic accent over there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever we see anybody, because my wife Jasmine, she also speaks Arabic. She's also American, and we actually met at the Arabic school in Jordan, which was really cool. Yeah, she was studying Arabic there and learning, was teaching English, and so we love whenever we're walking around here in Gainesville, Florida. If we like hear somebody and we're like, I think they might be speaking Arabic, we always go over to them and we surprise them, and they're always super surprised that we can speak with them in Arabic, and it's a really cool way to meet people.
And Florida, I figured you need Spanish the most.
Yeah, yep.
It's, the Latinos over there are like all over. So when I was there, I was like trying to improve my Spanish a bit, which didn't really work out in just a week.
Yep.
But I don't think much Arabs live in Florida. It's I think if I'm not mistaken, it's New Jersey and Texas. Houston, I think, has a lot of Arabs as well.
In Tampa as well. Tampa, Florida is actually it was some parts there in Temple Terrace. We lived there for a year, and there were some restaurants that were like Arab restaurants that you went to certain parts and the signs were in Arabic, and it was really cool to see that. So certain parts of Tampa, and then around in Michigan, around Detroit, there's some areas with lots of Arabs as well. So we always love opportunities whenever we can meet somebody. There's not a ton here in Gainesville, unfortunately, but there are some, which we always really love that opportunity to meet people.
Okay,
so
let's do this. Tell me, احكي لي بالعربي. شو أكتر شيء حبيته أو شو لاحظت أكتر شيء بالمجتمع السعودي لما عشت هناك لمدة 3 سنوات. If you can, it's fine, don't force it.
ايوه خليني افكر. كثير من الاشياء. اول شيء الكبسه مره مهم. بالخبز افضل.
بالخبز الله.
ايوه افضل. كانوا يجيبون المعلقه وقلت ليش انا
لا
سعودي معكم
بالخبزه.
ايوه
معكم
افضل.
حلو.
بس اتوقع انه الناس كانوا لطيفين جدا معي، وكانوا بعض الناس يعزموني الى بيتهم واشياء زي هذا، والناس بس لطيفين معي. حبيت مرة أن أتكلم معهم، أجلس معهم، و زي كثير خفيف الدم حسيت هناك. أيوة، بس أحب أن زي الثقافة أنه بعد الساعة 9 لسه الناس موجودين في المقاهي وأشياء زي هذا.
أنت وين كنت، في جدة ولا في الرياض؟
كنت الدمام.
في الدمام في الشرقية.
ايوه بالضبط.
اوكي. اهل الشرقية على فكرة كتير طيبين.
ايوه
هم كلهم اهل السعودية والنعم فيهم حبايبنا، بس اهل الشرقية دائما بتحس الدمام، الخبر، هاي المناطق اهلها كتير ناس هيك طيبة.
صح. ايوه انا حبيت وقتي هناك مرة، كان مرة جميل، وان شاء الله رح نرجع في المستقبل. So it was a great time. Really enjoyed the experience there.
Yeah, I'm impressed, man. This is amazing.
Thank you. Praise God. What about for you, with like when you came to Miami? I'm sure you've been to some other parts in the US. What were some of the, because culture is a big part of learning language. And maybe we'll just do one more question if anybody else has a question after this, because I want to respect your time as well. But what were some of the biggest challenges or things to adjust to, of like, why are they doing it this way? You were surprised by, didn't know something about the culture, or something that you really appreciated about the culture? You may have already gotten it all from watching Friends. You already knew the culture from that. So, oh yeah.
But can you repeat the last thing you said?
Yeah. What are some things from your time in being in the US, also being in Britain, things about the culture that you didn't understand at first, that were difficult, that then you learned, that were surprising, or things that you just really appreciated about the cultures?
In Britain or in Miami?
Yep, either one. Yeah.
not much, to be
Mm.
honest, because I was in London, and London is 90% Arabs and Indians, so
Yeah.
it felt like home.
You're like,
I
where are
was
the
like,
Brits here?
it's like some areas in London, if you don't speak Arabic, you'd get lost. Like no one would
Yeah.
understand what you're saying.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, so London was like, it was very similar to Dubai.
Yeah.
Miami, on the other hand, I figured in comparison between, living in England and visiting the States, um, but that's not just Miami. I also just came back from New York recently.
Okay, yeah.
Hospitality is like they're
Australia.
much more friendly.
Mm,
People are much more outgoing. You get to,
mm,
chat with people around you, have a talk with any group of
yeah.
people. They're more open to, making friends in
You mean
general.
compared to
Um,
Britain?
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. So
Yeah.
people are more social in a way.
Yeah.
So that's a very nice thing. But generally speaking, you, I mean, you wouldn't really find people from this part of the world that would visit the other side and would be kind of shocked about anything, because
Yeah.
the American culture is viral.
Everywhere.
Like
Yeah, you can't get away from it.
like the media, we've all been Americanized in one way or another. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty much expecting a lot of
y-
that. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean, we're very familiar with
Yeah.
it. So
That makes sense.
I was,
Yeah.
I saw it coming in every way. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, it's the great thing about the internet, media and
One thing,
everything.
however,
Yeah.
I did notice is I can't really specify if it was in England or in the States,
Yeah.
is people would spot an accent, and I do not hear my accent.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, you tell me, like, what would you say? Do I have something that would you? Okay, you can definitely tell that I'm not American, for
Hmm.
example, or English, but
Yeah.
what would you say is something that you can, hear out there, or something that you can spot?
Yeah, like what specifically
Yeah,
would be part of that, or what would I say?
yeah,
Like, oh, it sounds like this.
yeah, well, either.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds very natural. It sounds very smooth and everything. It's just some of the like as we get older, our tongues lose the ability to make certain sounds as smoothly. So you do a great job of getting to all the sounds. It's just the smoothness can be a little bit challenging to get it perfectly. Which you're
Yeah.
doing again, incredible job, much better than I can do with Arabic with the smoothness between those, with all those different sounds. But yeah, probably some of like the R sounds. The R is pretty difficult to master to
Yeah,
get perfect, but it sounds like
yeah,
very, very good. You're
nice.
doing a, again, excellent job with it. But probably just like some of those very small things of like stress emphasis that can be like slightly different where people are like, okay, not American, but like still incredible and super easy to understand and very good accent. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I wanna work on that. I wouldn't want to stop at where I'm at. So,
Yeah, we continue
but with the
growing.
R, by the way, probably that's the English effect, because the Brits do not use the letter R.
Yep.
Like they have water. They don't have
Yeah,
water
yep.
or water.
Just remove the
So,
R, make it out of there.
so they
Yeah.
just get rid of it. So,
Yep.
I would blame my time there, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. That is the hard thing
Yeah,
too when you're learning multiple dialects is that they
yeah.
kind of like mix a little bit, so you're not like fully this one or fully this one. But you have a great American accent. You sound really
Oh,
great with
thank you,
that. Of even
thank you,
like
appreciate
changing
it.
some of the T's to the D's, the D sound, the
Yeah.
flap T. You're doing a great job with that, which sounds much more natural. So yeah,
Yeah, it just happens. I never learned that. It just, came
yeah,
came along.
that's cool. Yeah, especially
Yeah.
listening, like you said, listening to music, listening to rap, things like that. When we're trying to sing along with it, it naturally helps us to get a lot better with the pronunciation. So that's cool that
Mm,
you've just naturally absorbed so much of that. So
true. Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, cool. Well,
Mm.
any final things that you'd want to say to everybody? Again, lots of people watching who want to learn English are just struggling with that. It's been a challenge. What would be your final things you'd want to encourage them with, say to them, anything like that?
Where's your audience mostly from? Would you say Arabs?
Yeah, all of 90, I'd say like 95, 99% are
95%.
Arabic speakers.
Okay. I would say if you speak Arabic, you can speak any other language, because
Yeah.
we have letters that cannot be pronounced in any other language. They
Ba,
call it
ha, yeah,
exactly. So they call it
yeah,
لغة الضاد because
yep,
ضاد is the only language that has that letter
yeah,
is Arabic. So if you can pronounce the Arabic letters, if you can speak Arabic, I think you can learn any other language.
yeah,
Yes, your tongue will be much heavier, as I'm struggling with the R apparently. But that doesn't mean that you cannot learn the language. You don't have to perfect the pronunciation, but understanding it as a first step is amazing. And bit by bit, the pronunciation and speaking would come along. So if you have any interest in that, please pursue it. It's definitely a plus. It adds up to your CV, your character.
yeah,
It can facilitate a lot of things for you in the future. So don't stop there, and don't be embarrassed. So what? We all
yeah,
make mistakes. We're all in a process of learning. So
mm-hmm,
if you don't try and exercise and practice it, and you cannot do these things without making mistakes. So keep pushing, keep trying, and I'm sure bit by bit, one word a day, that's 365 words a year.
yeah,
A couple of years, you're almost fluent. So
yeah.
keep it going. That would be my advice.
There you go, yeah, Sheikh. That's some great wisdom there. I love it. So
Habibi.
very, very good advice. Yeah,
Thank you.
awesome.
And of course, follow this amazing man right here. I honestly think you're creating something incredible. You're doing a great job. Very niche, very original. So I think a lot of people can get the most out of your content. So, yep, Mr. Joshua
Yeah.
over here.
There, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I hope and pray that will be
Appreciate
the case. That many people can continue learning and follow Dr. Muhammad as well. Learn everything about your teeth. Our teeth are very important. I'm like just finishing up with my Invisalign now on like the final, going towards the retainer stage of that. So
Amazing.
you know all about all that stuff. So
when are you visiting Dubai before we end this?
that is a good question. I hope so soon. I hope as soon as possible. I would love to visit Dubai again.
Great.
So we'd love to meet up in person there.
You'll be my guest, and we'll convert this to a podcast session.
That would be great. I know.
One-on-one talk. Yeah,
that would be awesome.
I'll probably bring along some other. I have a lot of good friends who speak proper English with a much better accent, and their story would be very impressive because some of them have a very interesting story as well. So maybe
cool.
bring them along.
Yeah, we'd love to do that. We'd love to talk with them as well. So yeah, we'll have to bring Jasmine along as well, and we'll all have to sit together and have some Arabic coffee together. Would be great.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining today, Dr. Muhammad. Thank you for sharing your story. And we hope for all of you guys listening that this can encourage you. That Dr. Muhammad, at one point, he couldn't speak any English, right? At one point, you were at 0, and then you got to a part where you could speak a little bit more, but it was still difficult. He got to where he is now. You guys can too. And that's why this is the You Can Too podcast, is to encourage you guys that you really can learn English. When it feels impossible, it's not. You guys can really learn English. And Dr. Muhammad is a great example of that. Speaking in front of hundreds of people in English, you guys can do that too one day. So
indeed.
Awesome. Well, may God bless you. Grace and peace to you. And look forward to hopefully seeing you in Dubai or here in Florida soon.
Definitely looking forward to that.
Awesome.